Hello everybody and welcome to your video notes on Learning Target 8.3 at the MEETS level, which is all about Coulomb's law with algebra. Oh yeah, get hyped folks, we got some algebra in the house. Alright, so our Coulomb's law, if you watch the basic video notes, you should know that it is force equals K times Q1 times Q2 over R squared. The Q's stand for the amount of force or the amount of charge there is. K is a constant. Reminder, K is always 9 times 10 to the 9th newtons times meters squared over Coulomb squared. Now, before we get into the algebra piece of this, I just want to remind you that this is a ratio, and ratios work the same when you have it this way. And this works this way because K is on the top here. And so everything that K is this 9 times 10 to the 9th newtons times meters squared over Coulomb squared. Well, the K is on the top of the fraction, and the C squared would go on the bottom of this fraction when we plug it in. However, when we rearrange this, it's possible that K ends up on the bottom. So in which case, this could also be C squared over 9 times 10 to the 9th newtons times meters squared. Okay, these mean the same thing, they're just flipped. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so when we're solving this with algebra, before we actually get into the solving part of it with a problem, we could solve for the distance, or we could solve for either of the charges. So let's look at those possibilities. What would that equation look like? So if I was solving for R, that would be this. So I'm going to go ahead and show my work and then put it on the screen. Okay, so what I've done here is I just rewrote the equation, and we want to solve for R. So in order to do that, I cannot have R squared on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply both sides by R squared. So I end up with R squared times F equals K times Q1 times Q2. R squared still not by itself. So switch colors. I'm going to divide both sides by F. So now I'm left with R squared equals K times Q1 times Q2 all over F. Now what I need to do is I need to get rid of this part right there by taking the square root of both sides. So I end up with R equals the square root of everything, K times Q1, Q2 over F. So that would be my one possibility of using algebra first. The other possibility would be solving for one of the Q's. Let's say I'm going to solve for Q1. So if I do that, again, start with my main equation. But now I want to solve for Q1. So same thing, I can't have a fraction on the side that I'm solving for. So I'm going to, same first step as the other one. So we're going to get rid of the R squared on the right side. We get this. Okay, and then we got to get rid of the things that are not Q. I'm going to divide by K and Q2. Those go away, and I'm left with Q1 equals R squared times F over K times Q2. All right, so now we have our two possibilities. Now there is the off chance that, you might say, hey, what if I want to solve for Q2? Well, it doesn't actually matter which one you call Q1 or Q2. Okay, so if you're solving for something that's a charge, you're going to use this one. If you're solving for something that's distance, It's that one. So really there's only two equations here that we have to choose from. So that is the algebra side of this. Okay, so here's your example. We've got two charges that are separated a distance of that many meters. Okay, that sounds important. And experience a force of that much newtons. It's also important. If one charge is this much, ooh, here's the money. What is the charge of the other? Okay, so for this one, we've got one charge, another charge. They're separated by a distance of r. We know this. That'll be a check mark. We know one of them. We know the force. We don't know what this charge is. Okay, so if we list out our givens and unknowns, we know that the force is negative 2.7 times 10 to the negative 5th newtons. We know that from right here. We know that the force is that. Doesn't matter which one we call Q1 or Q2. I'm going to say that we're looking for Q2, or we could say we're looking for Q1. Doesn't really matter. But we know that one of them is not sticking. Hold on. Hey, there it is. Popped up. We know that one of them is this 6.7 times 10 to the negative 11th coulombs. So this one's question mark. I don't know that. And then the distance is 1.9 times 10 to the negative 30 meters because of that. Okay. Oh, and then K, as always, is 9 10 to the 9th newtons meter squared over Coulomb squared. Okay, so now we have to figure out which equation are we going to use, and we already solved for it. So at this point, you could memorize these two, write that down, or show your algebra like we already did, but we're just going to jump right in with this one. So we're going to say equation is Q1, or let's say we're saying Q2. Sure. Q2 equals r squared times f, and f over k times q1. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to write all of the variables in and do my substitution step. I got this far, but I wanted to show you my work for the K. Remember what we said at the beginning, this is a ratio, and it's okay if you flip it. So the the newtons times meters squared go with this. Then I'm going to put my c squared on the top because that's just going to go on the other side of my fraction bar. And then Q1 is the last thing I need to write. Okay. So now I have substituted, and now it's time to solve. Okay, so now I am just going to go through and walk through typing this in the calculator. Got my 1.9 e negative 3, so that's this right here. I'm going to square that. Let's see what that is. Okay. I'm going to multiply that by negative 2.7 e negative 5, and I think the rest is just Coulomb squared. Yep. So then we get, for the top, negative 9.747 times 10 to the negative 11th. And then on the bottom, we get, we've taken care of all of this. So now we're going to do 9 E9 times 6.7 E negative, yeah, negative 11. That's right. Yeah. I get 0.603. Now I want to take that one step further to get my final answer. So this will be Q2, I think is what we said we're solving for. And take my answer here. I get negative 1.6. Oh, let's say round there, times 10 to the negative 10th. The answer would be coulombs. Hey, there you go. Last thing I'll say before signing out, if you want to make the units work, so here we've got a Newton and a Newton. We've got one C and a C squared, so all that'll do is get rid of the squared. And then meters that end up being squared with meters squared. So I'm left with coulombs, which, hey, look at that. Wow, we did it. All right, thanks for listening.